Story 1. Before I went on to a career in radio and public speaking, I was a young 19-year-old student working his way through college. This was circa 1989, well before student loans were a major thing. To pay for classes and books, I had been working 3 different jobs: grocery store, men's clothing store, and restaurant for about 2 years and enjoying them. While there have always been people with "the customer is always right" attitudes, there were not as many of those types as we have today. Still, every now and then I would come across some young, original, difficult customers, individuals who are now middle-aged and are the embodiment of the title. The movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott had just come out, and I adopted Swayze's character John Dalton's attitude of "be nice" until it's time to not be nice in dealing with difficult customers. If it cost me one of my jobs, so be it. I had 2 others to fall back on, and all were willing to give me more hours if I asked. It was at the grocery store job where I met the original difficult customers that put my "fire me, I don't care" attitude to the test. I was working the closing shift as a checker at He But Grocery Company, my state's largest privately owned grocery store chain. If you are not familiar with He But Grocery Company, it is an institution here in the state of Texas, kind of like Whataburger and Shiner Beer. The store hours were 6 a.m., midnight. Between the hours of 11 p.m. and midnight, there was a skeleton crew on the front end, with 1 person at each station. On this night, I was the one checker me, along with the 1 bagger, or courtesy clerks, as He But Grocery Company called them, and the assistant service manager. We were not alone, as there were over 40 stockers and vendors who started restocking the shelves after 10 p.m. It had been a typical Saturday night, with people coming in the last hour before we closed, either making beer runs or grabbing a few essentials. At 11:50 p.m., me, the courtesy clerks, and the manager were all at the end of 8-hour shifts and ready to go home. As I am finishing checking out a customer, I hear the courtesy clerks say, "Oh no." I look up to see a young, 20-something couple walking in the doors. He, our difficult male customer, was pushing a cart, and she, our difficult female customer, had a list in her hand. They were arguing about something, and by the way they walked, you could tell they were in no hurry. Courtesy clerks: they are heading for the beer aisle, maybe just a quick beer run. Manager: they might not realize what time it is, give them a warning. Because of my major and background, whenever I was checking the managers, they would have me make store-wide announcements. I hit the intercom button and went into my professional radio voice. Me. Attention shoppers, your friendly neighborhood He But Grocery Company will be closing in 10 minutes. Please make your final selections and make your way up front to check out before the clock strikes midnight. Important for later. As always, thank you for shopping at He But Grocery Company and have a great evening. I checked out a few people making beer runs, ringing up one right at 11:59 p.m., but our couple with the cart was not among them. After the last one exited my check stand, the manager followed them out and locked the front door behind them. I sent the courtesy clerks to do a store check to see who was left shopping, and I grabbed the intercom. Me. Attention He But Grocery Company shoppers, it is midnight and your neighborhood He But Grocery Company is now closed. Please bring your basket to the front for a quick checkout. And as always, thank you for shopping at He But Grocery Company and have a good night. Courtesy clerks: I walked the store. That couple was in the meat department arguing over chicken or steaks. They are the only ones left. And we continue to wait. 10 minutes go by, and still no sign of our difficult customers. Me. Okay, courtesy clerks, go see where they are. Courtesy clerks makes an island check and reports back. Now, they are on the condiment aisle arguing over which BBQ sauce to get. Me, grabbing the intercom again, having a little fun with the announcement since there were only employees and 2 customers in the store. Attention He But Grocery Company shoppers, it is now approximately 12:15 am and your friendly He But Grocery Company store is closed. Please bring your cart to the front for immediate checkout. Thank you for shopping at He But Grocery Company and have a good morning. The manager and courtesy clerks are about to lose it laughing at the Robin Williams-esque "good morning," and still we waited. A few stalkers even came up to let us know there was still someone in the store, to which the three of us replied, "Yeah, we know," and we continued to wait. At 12:20 am, I realized that we were not seeing the couple. If they were going up and down the aisle as normal, we would see them come around one aisle by the cash registers and then head up the next, but it seemed they were purposely not coming by the front of the store, avoiding us. It's time for another announcement, but my patience is about gone. Me. Attention He Butt Grocery Company customer. The time is now 12:20 am, and this He Butt Grocery Company store closed 20 minutes ago. Please bring what you have in your cart up to the front for a quick and immediate checkout. Thank you for shopping at He Butt Grocery Company. And we waited. I sent the courtesy clerks on another recon mission to see where they were. He goes and stands at the end of one aisle for a couple of minutes, then heads back my way. Courtesy clerks. Dude, they are just standing in the chip aisle talking. Me? Just talking? What is it this time? Can't decide between Lay's or Ruffles, Fritos or Cheetos. Courtesy clerks? No, now they are arguing about his ex-girlfriend. The manager rolls their eyes and gives me a "you've got to be kidding me" look. That was it. It was now 12:30 am. I was tired and hungry. I had somewhere to be the next morning, and I was ready to go home. If they had been shopping with some sense of urgency, I might have had a little compassion. But no, they were just hanging out talking. It's time to not be nice. I picked up the intercom for my last announcement of the night. I started off normal, then went nuclear. Me. Attention He Butt Grocery Company customer. And by customer, I mean the couple on the chip aisle having a random conversation in front of the Cheetos. Yes, you too. This He Butt Grocery Company store closed half an hour ago, and we are going home. You have 30 seconds to get to the register up front and check out. After that, we are locking you in with the stalkers, and you can shop all night and check out at 6 am when the store reopens. A loud whoa and laughter erupts from the stalkers spread out around the store. I pause, 10 seconds, nothing. Me, still over the intercom, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. If I get to 0, you are spending the night here. 13, 12. The difficult male customer comes flying out of the chip aisle so fast that he takes the corner on 2 wheels, almost capsizing the cart. Today, I would say he looked like a contestant on a guy's grocery game trying to be the first one to the check stand. The difficult female customer was jogging fast behind him with what today we call the classic, disgruntled customer face. The difficult male customer reaches the check stand out of breath, and the difficult female customer looks aggravated. As they push their cart up to the register, I go into sweet customer service mode, like everything is normal, and we have not been waiting half an hour to close. Me. Y'all find everything okay? Difficult female customer. No, we are having a big party at noon tomorrow, and there is still stuff we need. Why can't we finish shopping? We made it in before you closed. Me, still being overly sweet. That is not how it works. When we say we close at midnight, we close at midnight. Difficult male customer. You know it's your job to wait till we are finished shopping. After 40 minutes of shopping, all they had in the cart were multiple packages of ribeye steaks, a bottle of BBQ sauce, a loaf of bread, 10 various bags of chips, and a good bit of alcohol. Only about 6 items were scratched off the extensive list the difficult female customer had in her hand. Me, looking directly at the difficult male customer, going into Southern bless your heart, sweet. Well, if you had actually been shopping instead of just standing around fighting about your ex, maybe y'all could have gotten everything on your list. They both gave me a stunned look. The difficult male customer started to snap back at me, but the difficult female customer cut him off and lied into him about his ex-girlfriend potentially showing up at their party with one of his friends. While they were focused on each other, I rang up their stuff and then got to the alcohol at the bottom of the cart. A couple of cases of Budweiser, 6 bottles of Boone's Country Quencher, and countless packs of Bartles and James wine coolers. It was the 80s. Now here is where we got our revenge for keeping us there till almost 1 a.m. And the best part is that we did not do this. They did this to themselves. I start pulling all the adult beverages out of the cart. The difficult customers are still too busy arguing to notice I am not ringing up the alcohol, but instead handing it to courtesy clerks, who is putting it into a separate cart to take back and restock. Difficult female customer, still fighting with the difficult male customer, starts digging into her purse and says, "I just know you will want to check our ID." Regular shoppers knew our policy. Anyone who looked to be under 35 got carded. Me. No, that will not be necessary. Difficult male customer, look in shock for a second. Well, maybe someone can see how old we are. As I hit the total button on their order, it dawns on the difficult customers that the courtesy clerks is walking off with the main thing they needed for their party. Difficult male customer, where is he going with our drinks? Me. I did not need to see your IDs because I can't sell you or anyone else any alcohol. Difficult male customer, what? What? Difficult female customer, bring that back now. Me, laying on the sweet southern bless your heart customer service voice on real thick. I am so sorry, we can't. See, we did not start ringing up your order until 12:32 am. I showed them the timestamp on the receipt, and the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission regulations prevent us from selling any alcoholic beverages from 12 to 7 am. Difficult male customer, and so what? Me, and, in simple terms, our liquor license prohibits us from selling alcoholic beverages after midnight. Difficult female customer, but we made it in the doors before midnight. Me. It's not whether you make it into the store before midnight. It's whether you make it to the checkout before midnight. The Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission goes by the timestamp on the receipt, not by what time you walk through the doors. Difficult male customer, seeing his party is in jeopardy, he goes into schmooze mode. "Ah, come on, dude, can't you hook us up this one time? What is it going to hurt? It's no big deal." Me, drop the whole sweet thing. Yeah, dude, that is a big no. Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission officers regularly check stores after midnight. You walk out with beer now and get stopped. This store loses its liquor license. I get arrested, fired, and the store garnishes my last check to pay their fine. Sorry, but your party ain't worth my job. Difficult male customer, you're a jerk. Me. Dude, I don't know you. You have kept us here almost an hour after closing. You have been rude. And you want me to risk getting arrested and losing my job to sell you alcohol for a party I am not even invited to. And you're calling me a nincompoop? I pretty much started laughing in the difficult male customer's face. Difficult female customer, we're going to call tomorrow and get you fired. Me. For what? Saying no when you ask me to do something illegal. Please call and let them know I am doing my job. I'll let my manager know what your boyfriend called me when I would not break the law for you. Also, be sure to give them your name and contact information so we can pass that information on to the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission as well. Difficult male customer, forget it. I'll just come in first thing in the morning before the party and get the beer and the rest of the stuff we need. The difficult female customer practically throws the money at me, and I enjoy slowly counting back her change. As they head out, I yell after them. Me. Thank you for shopping at He Butt Grocery Company and have a great rest of your evening. Difficult male customer, yelling back, forget you. The courtesy clerks was coming back up front after restocking what, for them, was the most important part of their order. Difficult female customer, to the courtesy clerks, aren't you going to carry out our groceries? That was part of their job in the 80s. Courtesy clerks, nope, not after we have already closed. Difficult female customer, y'all stink. The manager unlocks the doors to let them out and wishes them a good evening, and gets scolded as well. As the courtesy clerks cleans up and I am counting down my till with the manager, something hits me and I just start laughing. Manager, What now? Me? They said their party is at noon, and he would come back tomorrow morning to get the rest of what they needed and the beer. Courtesy clerks, so. Me. Well, tomorrow. Wait, today is Sunday. Liquor stores are closed, and nobody, including us, can sell alcohol until afternoon. Our night was finally over, but the difficult customers' party planning problems were just beginning. Story 2. This takes place just a couple of months ago, but I'll give some backstory. In school, I was bullied pretty badly. In this school, bullying was actually unofficially popular and accepted. This meant many kids would compete to see how badly they could treat their lessers. Among these jerks were the clique who just hated, the type who had no reason, just that was the way they believed it was. Time passes though. I left that school, graduated at another. Yet once or twice I have met my old school bullies and had to deal with them. No big special deal, just someone picking out of old habits and being told off. Otherwise, everyone else I went to school with just did the same as I did and moved on. This guy was one of those who couldn't let it go, and due to circumstance, I had to deal with him. Understand, I love my job. I'm a computer geek that is information technology. A nice position where I get to choose how my work gets done with great pay. To me, it's a dream come true. So with this in mind, understand that I will fight tooth and nail to keep it if the need arises. Time to start. The whole thing started with a simple encounter. At the facility I work at, we have contractors, people who come in and will do a job then leave. In this case, school bully was with one of these contracted companies who were supporting maintenance with electrical and frame work updates across the shop floor. I got one of my usual support request calls and went down to see what was up. On the way, I saw him walking the opposite direction. At first, I didn't recognize him. It has been nearly 20 years, so I nodded politely and moved on. It didn't click until later who he was, and at that time I decided to ignore it. I had my own job to think about. 2 days later, the signs started. I was doing some stock audit work on the floor when one of the assembly workers I know, and I do know a lot of the shop floor workers, wanted to ask me a question. I said sure, so he asked me if it was true that in school I tried to assault a classmate. I won't lie, I was really taken aback. The answer, of course, was a resounding no. I was angry, so I asked him who brought up such a thing. He told me that a contractor from a certain company was talking to him and a few others and brought it up. He said this guy talked a lot of hateful smack. He told me he didn't believe it, but wanted to hear it from me. Fair enough. I asked for more details about the smack-talking perpetrator, and his description fit school bully. I was not amused. I didn't want to deal with this. I was pretty happy and didn't want to jeopardize that with my job by confronting a person who would just deny it. Asking the shop floor workers to back me up as witnesses wouldn't work either, since even though they are decent people, they wouldn't want to risk their paychecks for such drama. Instead, I called my brother who works as one of the maintenance managers. I convinced him to tell me where the company school bully worked for was doing their work. I explained the situation, and he told me to leave it be because within a couple of months, when the work is done, they would move on. It was understandable, but I'm a little paranoid and wanted to keep my wits about me just in case. For about a week, I stalked the group school bully was with. I would simply walk by and make a note of who the shop floor guys he was working with. After school bully moved on, I would casually ask everyone how things were going. The common thread was that one of the contractors on site really hated my guts and talked a lot of nonsense. Multiple people told me that when he noticed me around, he would go into small tirades about how I did this or something else when we were younger. Things like how I used illegal substances, or I quit school because I was a waste. Things like that. The thing is that everything I heard was very nostalgic in a bad way. Everything said was a classic excuse the haters would have used. They never actually had a reason to hate me, so they would make something up. Hence why I called them the haters. After this, I decided that it would be best to keep on damage control. I know how things can be. If a rumor is heard enough, people can start to believe it. I didn't want to confront school bully either, since I figured nothing would come of it. My brother was right. After a month or so, this jerk would be gone, but fate had other things in mind. My boss, being the nice guy that he is, called me up one day asking if everything was okay. The rumors had gotten back to him, and he wanted to ask me about them. I explained the situation and my plan for damage control. He understood and told me to keep it up. Unbeknownst to me, he was annoyed enough to talk to school bully's boss about what was going on, which led me to my first real encounter with school bully. This happened the next night. I was heading to my car because I was done with the night. School bully was waiting for me outside by the back lot. I was halfway to my car when he called out, "School bully, hey, we need to talk." I turned and saw him, but not wanting to deal with it, I ignored him and continued to my car. "School bully, don't ignore me, I have been through hell because of you." He sped up and got in between me and my car, so now I have no choice but to listen. If I tried to go all the way back to the lobby, he would just get in my way again. "School bully, I got scolded by my boss because of you. Someone said I was acting inappropriately while on the job." "Me? Okay, and this involves me how?" I said it all pretty passively, figuring on playing dumb. It was obvious my boss talked to his boss, getting him in trouble. "School bully, I know it was you who told my boss." "Me? Dude, I didn't tell anyone about anything. I don't care, so just leave me alone." "School bully, forget that. I know you. I know all about you. I remember the good days when we used to beat you up. I can bet you would love to have some revenge. I'm not going to let that happen by not letting this slide. You know your place." "Me," I interrupted. I was getting angry at this point. "Forget you. This isn't that horrible school. Do you really think you could just get everyone to hate me by spreading dumb rumors?" I remember this point very well. He got a real smug look on his face like someone who just won an argument. I can bet my remark let the cat out of the bag. I could also remember having to hold myself back from punching that smug face. "School bully, do you think anybody gives a darn about you? Nothing's changed." This is when he said it. The nickname that still angers me off. He called me the derogatory word they called me in school. The one they used as an excuse to beat me up or insult me. No, I'm not posting it here. I bet I can get everyone to hate you because you know you're worthless. By this point, my emotions were in the open, and I think he noticed because instead of stopping, he picked up momentum. "School bully, I've seen you and that overweight wife of yours around town. Maybe I'll tell her too. I can bet she would harm herself if she knew what a nickname you are. What are you upset? Are you going to cry like you used to? How about this? I'll leave you alone to think about what I said, and I'll see you tomorrow, you nickname." He left it at that and walked off. I stood there for a bit and thought. I was now seething. I really wanted to turn on the jerk and punch his lights out. But I know if I did, I would just get fired because of the no-tolerance rules we have. Then I had an idea. He was right. By this point, I wanted revenge. He insulted me and my 5-month pregnant wife. Nope, not going to put up with this nonsense. I went home and vented the event to my loving wife, who listened and gave me a well-needed hug. The next day I went into motion. The first thing I did was talk to security. They had cameras for the parking lots, so I requested the video for the time-frame school bully, and I had our little chat. The video didn't have audio, but at least I had proof of his approach. This is why you become friends with the other departments. Ladies and gentlemen, you never know when you will need their help, and help they did. They found exactly what I needed. The video showed him come up on the back lot and hiding behind the fence. Then it showed his approach as I was walking to my car. It made it obvious he was waiting for me since he had no reason to be there. They copied the video, and per my request, sent it to my boss and to cite very important person. The very important person is the guy who runs the entirety of the plant. Very important person is just the information technology nickname. I then called my boss and explained the email and what happened. I also explained that I sent it to the very important person, so we ended up scheduling a meeting later for that day. It was just me, my boss, and very important person. It was mainly to explain the video and what happened. During the meeting, the very important person got the contracting company's owner on call. I then once again explained myself. Before I explained the results, understand I embellished some to everyone. I upped the ante and explained that school bully also threatened me and my wife with violence, that I have felt like my safety was put in jeopardy. My workplace has a no-tolerance rule for threats like this, so I knew it would be taken more seriously if I added that in. Now for the results. During the talk after I explained what happened, the contracted company told us they would fire him, because to not do so would risk the contract they had with us. My very important person also called the police as per the rules for anything like this. The police came, took a statement from me, my boss, saw the video, and then arrested school bully during his lunch break due to the threats of violence. A week later, I got a summons to court to speak on my behalf. I told the judge what happened as I told my boss and very important person. I wasn't told what school bully was charged with since the county decided to charge him on their own, but I do know he spent a small amount of time in jail and got a fine. After that, I was allowed to get a restraining order just in case. This kind of thing still peeves me off, but I wanted to type this up while it was still fairly fresh. I also wanted to wait until things were said and done. I was told by a lawyer I asked before writing this that since his trial is over, the matter can't be overturned because of what I wrote here. Also, for those curious, very important person is basically the manager of the entire plant, but calling him that actually makes his role seem less than it really is, so calling him very important person seemed more fitting to me. Also note that I can't release the video, it's company property, and I don't want to get fired. Story 3. I'm a 24 male, and I moved in with my 50-year-old mother after her marriage of 25 years with my biological father ended. He was a manipulative jerk, but that's another story. Shortly after the divorce, my mother introduced me to her boyfriend at the time, Christopher. Now, my mother worked as a correctional officer at the county jail. The boyfriend was a former inmate and for driving under the influence. That should have been the first red flag. But my mother was grieving a long marriage, and I didn't want to push the subject. Christopher seemed to make her happy, and that was enough for me. Myself, brother, and sister all moved in with mother and Christopher, and we seemed to get along okay. Christopher and I bonded a bit over our love of video games, and all seemed well. That is, until 2017. Due to Christopher's prior driving under the influence charge, he had to go in regularly for probationary checkups at the courthouse. One day, he didn't return, and we got a little worried. We then received a phone call from him, from Texas. Turns out, when he arrived at the courthouse that day, he was apprehended by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. His family from Texas was implicated in a number of gang and illegal substance-related crimes, and due to a situation where he was in a vehicle during a prohibited item handoff, he was on the hook as well. He ended up agreeing to testify against his family members in exchange for a shorter sentence and was allowed to be out of prison before the trial. My mother was distraught, and over the course of many phone calls over a year, they worked out their marriage plans for when he returned. His store owner at the Dairy Queen he worked at allowed him to come back as well, back to his store manager position. Soon after, the drinking started. Now obviously, because of his driving under the influence charge, Christopher was clearly no stranger to drinking. He began to drink more and more, to the point where he was consuming half a 24-pack of beer a day. Christopher was a mean drunk. He regularly started fights when intoxicated, and while they never got physical, he wasn't exactly kind with his words. My mother enabled his behavior for several years, saying the stress was getting to him from work and from the upcoming trial. Finally, after several years, my mother had enough. Christopher came home extremely drunk one night, and my mother confronted him. She asked if he'd been drinking, and when he didn't deny it, she kicked him out. He went to live with a friend temporarily. The next morning, Mother asked us to help gather a few of his essentials so that he didn't have to re-enter the home until he was sober. While we were gathering his things, we heard a knock at the front door. We opened it to find Beatrice, one of Christopher's co-workers and someone I went to high school with. She told my mother she had something important to share. After sitting my mother down and telling her not to share where she got the info from, Beatrice told my mother about how Christopher was cheating on my mother with Darlene. How he regularly had Darlene perform intimate acts in and around his workplace. How Beatrice had caught them, and how Christopher told her that if she ever told my mother, he'd fire her. He was the store manager. And finally, how Darlene was pregnant. My mother was angry. After the initial shock wore off, she told us to round up all of Christopher's things and to dump it outside. We took everything of his out of the house and tossed it all in the alley behind our house. Christopher had no reason or ability to return to the house. It was rented, with only my mother on the paperwork, so no issues there. In the meantime, she called and confronted him. He confessed to the entire affair, and that he was happy Darlene was pregnant, because that meant he'd finally have a child of his own. Mother refused to have more kids. We three were massive strains on her body. She likely wouldn't survive anymore. He refused to apologize for any of his actions. My mother arranged for him to collect his items from the alley with an officer present, and he left our lives. The revenge. Now, my mother clearly wanted to dust her hands of him and move on. She was already quite emotional from the whole ordeal, and wanted nothing more from him. But sister, brother, and I had other ideas. First, we called his workplace. Dairy Queen operates as an independently owned franchise, and the owner of this branch owned several branches in the area. He was also a good friend. We informed him of the intimate acts being performed on the premises, and he went through the processes of getting Christopher booted from his position and barred him from any of the branches in the area. Funnily, Beatrice got his position after he left, and now runs a tight and clean ship. Christopher no longer had a job or a place to live, and so went to live with Darlene in a town about an hour away. We found out that he started working at another Dairy Queen in that town, and informed the owner of that location of the situation. It took significantly longer, due to there being no current indecent actions occurring there, but eventually he lost that job too. Soon after, Christopher began driving around our neighborhood, seemingly stalking my mother and our family, probably because of his job loss. Now, due to the whole situation in Texas, he never had his probation lifted for his driving under the influence charge, and thus still did not have a license. He never had to drive when he lived with us, since work was local and we could drive him as needed. But here he was, clearly driving around by himself when he shouldn't be. We contacted the police and informed them about Darlene's vehicle in our neighborhood, and that we believed Christopher was driving it, without a license. We told them to pull over the vehicle next time they see it, as it would likely be Christopher driving again. Sure enough, a few weeks later, we were told that Christopher indeed was pulled over and sent back to the local jail for driving without a license, and while intoxicated. The police also did a search of the home he was staying at, and found several firearms at the premises. Since he was a felon, he was not legally allowed to have weaponry on the premises, meaning there was more jail time tacked on. By the time his jail time had finished, it was just in time for him to be sent back to incarceration in Texas for the trial. Christopher's son was born while Christopher was in prison. Darlene evidently realized what an absolute jerk Christopher was and cut ties with him while he was in prison. During his prison time, Christopher started sending tons of letters to my mother, stating how sorry he was, pleading to take him back, and ranting about how it wasn't his fault, all in the same letter, mind you. Mother burnt every one of them. We moved on, moving out of state. Christopher evidently got out of prison some years ago, and now lives in Kansas, struggling and fighting child support, which Darlene sued him for. Mother now has a new boyfriend, who treats her right and cares a lot more than Christopher ever did. Brother and sister moved on and out, and I still live with mother, assisting her with the newly purchased home that we've been renovating. Life's looking okay. I was reminded of this by a chat with a coworker about cheaters, and thought to post it here for others to enjoy.